Hey there, Michael Kuhlman here. It's a rainy day here in Altamont Springs, Florida. Um, Thanks for clicking on the video. The clip you're about to watch is part of actually like an hour and 40 long minute video that I kind of put together where I reviewed a bunch of other books and authors, the books off my shelf. So if you're interested in this clip, check out that larger video. Thank you for clicking on the video. Let's talk about one of the best sci-fi series of all time. And if you guys know anything about sci-fi, you've probably read it or at least seen it on lists and stuff. And where is the other one? I want to show you. So I don't have the second one. No, I'm lying. I don't have the first one. This is the first one. This is the sequel. But here's 3 books in this series. So it's the Hyperion Cantos by Dan Simmons. This is awesome sci-fi. This is the benchmark that they should hold all other sci-fi to. I mean, this is one of the best series. Again, recommended by my friend David that I mentioned earlier. This is the gold standard. Great, 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 great book. This is the second one, The Fall of Hyperion. The first one is just called Hyperion, and the world building is amazing. It was written in the 80s. It's very futuristic. Humanity is spread across many, many, many different worlds in the hegemony. And there's a leader. They call it the CEO. Gladstone, I think is her name. And there's a mysterious planet called Hyperion and 6 travelers. It's sort of an allusion to the Canterbury Tales. So that's a classic literature from 1400s or some shit from England. And they have like the knight, the priest, the bard, almost like a Dungeons and Dragons like group that all get together, and it's 6 people and they all tell their tales, and that's how that goes. The first book of this series is kind of based on that, but they have a captain of a ship, of a spaceship, but it's nature based, and these people are elongated and tall because they have the tree of life that's a huge spaceship sized tree, and it's organically run by these people that are almost like a druid a little bit, but it's futuristic, and he's the captain of a ship, and so he shows up. They have a soldier with all these super advanced technologies, and he's a soldier in the field, and he's a general or a commander or something, and he has been sent back in time multiple times for his training in simulations. And the weird glitch that starts to happen in these simulations is he sees a woman on the battlefield while he's fighting, and then they go off and have a relationship, and he sees her multiple times, and that this lady turns out to be an AI that was sent by this 4-dimensional being called the Shrike. And so he's sent on this journey to him and some other people like that. But the soldier, the captain of the ship, they're all sent to Hyperion because they were selected to give offering at the time tombs, which are the set of tombs that are traveling backwards in time, and they're supposed to be released to open up. And this 4-dimensional being called the Shrike is sort of like the guardian of these time tombs. And so these travelers have to go to this planet, and they have to make their journey. And the entire journey is across, there's 2 stories in one for the first book. Each person, there's maybe 6 or 7 tales. Each tells their story. And then in between their stories being told, it's the actual journey of them going to the time tombs. And so the first book leaves off there. The second book takes place after that. That is actually the Shrike right there. And so that's a 4-dimensional being that is very mysterious and is involved with their lives. They have warp gates that people are traveling through. I think are they called warp gates? They're like people going to work in other planets. They step through the portal and they appear in another planet. And there's an AI system that's run by this, I think AI has become sentient, and it causes a certain amount of problems. And then this planet is being attacked by a bunch of, like, the ousters is what they're called. I might be confusing that. They might be called something different. But there's like a group of alien races that are actually just humans that have evolved differently, and they've evolved in space. And they are the bad guys, and they're attacking. And so the hegemony, which is all the groups of people, have to sort of fight off, protect Hyperion. And so that becomes a big deal. And so all this happens over the course of 2 books, and then there's 2 more books. And these books actually are better than the original series. I won't go into these as much, but the 3rd book is Endymion, and it takes place hundreds of years after the events of the first 2 books. You have the first book, which I've described in detail, the second book, which takes place right after that and wraps up that story. This book takes place hundreds of years after, and it's just so interesting. It's much more personalized, this book, and then its sequel, which is the final in the series, this book. Both were great. This is my favorite, the 3rd one. The character is awesome. It gets much more in depth, and just as a quick preview, he's writing it. He's writing it after being condemned to death, but the way they put him to death is they put him in a spaceship, and it's got a quantum, like, you know, Schrodinger's cat. So Schrodinger's cat is if you put a cat inside of a box and put it out in like space or whatever, and you can have quantum things that either turn up or down, and it's totally random unless you observe it. I'm getting some of the details wrong, but you kind of get the idea. If it's observed by a third party, it will choose on or off, and if it's on, it's like an isotope that's getting radiated or something. So it's basically Schrodinger's cat is this idea that you're not sure if the cat inside is alive or dead, and it's just based on if you're looking at it. So it has to do with quantum physics, and it's how quantum physics doesn't reflect with Newtonian physics, like the reality that we live in. You drop an apple and it falls to the ground, versus what the weird stuff that happens with quarks and quantum physics. And if you take that and ramp it up, you don't know if this man writing this story is alive or dead at the time. He's in this limbo space. And so he tells his story, and it's like a couple hundred years after the events of the impactful events of the first 2 books. Great, just really good characters. I mean, this has just got everything. Really, the story, the world building, which I've described, is awesome. The stories within those are great. They're super varied. There's a detective story that is kind of like a short character following around. And she comes from this world with super heavy, like 1.6 times Earth gravity. And so she's kind of short and bulky. And the way the world is described there is like the world that she comes from is totally different, and people got to do things so differently. And her personality type, she's kind of gruff, but she's a private investigator, so you got that little noir, which I always like. Yeah. Oh, this is just great books. Would 100% recommend it. They're one of the best sci-fi books ever written. And it goes Hyperion, Fall of Hyperion, Endymion, and the Rise of Endymion. Really cool artwork. About 700 pages. 500 pages. So between 500 and 700 pages, but really good, really fast.